Imagine a family whose wealth is so old school. It's not just a bank account. It's woven into the very history of New York. These aren't tech billionaires or flashy reality stars. We're talking about generations of quietly powerful, truly old money, still subtly influencing the city in ways you barely notice. Who are they? And how have they managed to stay not just wealthy, but relevant for centuries? Stay with me, because their story might surprise you. Today, I'm taking you on a journey through time and opulence, into the heart of old money Manhattan. This isn't your typical celebrity gossip or overnight success story. I'm talking about a family whose roots predate skyscrapers, whose name whispers through boardrooms and charity galas. By the end of this video, you'll understand why old money isn't just about how much you have, but how you carry it through generations. The rituals, the philanthropy, the understated influence. How this family remains relevant today without ever shouting from the rooftops. And what lessons we can learn, even if we're not inheriting a mansion on Fifth Avenue. Think of it as a history lesson wrapped in a cozy, luxurious blanket. Who are they really? Let me introduce you to the family, and I'll keep their name under wraps until just the right moment, so you feel that little spark of curiosity building. It all begins in the late 18th century. A shipping magnate, fresh off his success in Atlantic trade, sets up shop in New York City. He's not flashy, no yachts with neon lights or Instagram flexes. He's the kind of guy who lets his wealth do the talking, through real estate, bank founding, and alliances with rising political figures. As the years roll on, each generation faces turbulence. Wars, economic crashes, world-shattering changes, but somehow they hold steady. They build foundations, literally and figuratively. A townhouse here, a trust fund there, philanthropic foundations launched in silent boardrooms. This family is still one of, if not the, wealthiest old money dynasties in New York. They might not make headlines, but rest assured, their fingerprints are everywhere. On the board of that museum you visited last weekend, in the quiet endowment behind that scholarship you applied for in college, in subtle gestures, annual donations, community programs, a discreet sponsorship of the arts. All this without a single public announcement. That's the elegance of old money discretion. What does old money even mean? Maybe you've heard the term, but it's more than just been rich for a long time. 1. Heritage and legacy. Wealth anchored in history. It's inherited, but that inheritance is more than dollars. It includes values, traditions, a DNA of responsibility. 2. Social capital. They've cultivated the right schools, the right boardrooms, the right networks, and those connections endure. 3. Low-key influence. No flashy red carpets, no viral TikToks, just quiet pull, academic scholarships, civic projects, shape-shifting real estate moves. 4. Adaptation, without losing identity. When industries shift, say from shipping to finance or real estate to tech, they adapt, and they often backfill their estates with contemporary investments, yet still preserve their original holdings. So for our family, old money isn't stuck in the past. It's alive, adaptive, and still powering Manhattan's foundation. The mechanics, how they've stayed wealthy for centuries. Now let's peek behind the curtain. How does a family sustain wealth for hundreds of years? 1. Diversification of assets. They don't put all their eggs in one basket. Real estate, finance, small stakes in emerging sectors, historical estates, philanthropic trust funds, they're everywhere. 2. Generational education and mentorship. Children grow up with privilege, yes, but beyond fancy schools, they're taught responsibility, boardroom shadowing, guest lectures, mentorship from long-serving board members. 3. Family governance structures. Ever heard of a family office? It's an in-house institution that manages everything, from finances to legal to philanthropic strategy, for generations. 4. Legacy philanthropy. Not for headlines, but because they believe in long-term civic stability. Hospitals, art museums, educational scholarships, green space restoration, all quietly funded. 5. Quiet adaptability. When shipping declined, they pivoted to railroads. When real estate market dipped, they invested in industrial innovation. They don't panic. They analyze, coordinate, pivot. 6. Focus on reputation. A scandal here could cascade. So they guard their reputation. They're discreet. They've learned that absolute transparency isn't always their style, but integrity always is. Each step, asset diversification, education, governance, philanthropy, reputation, acts like a pillar supporting a centuries-old mansion. And that is how this family, one generation after another, stands tall even as the world shifts around them. Why does it matter today? You might be thinking, okay, but why should I care about them? Here's the twist. Even when we don't see them, old money families like this shape the world we live in. They underwrite scientific research that might one day solve climate change or global pandemics. They preserve cultural institutions, museums, orchestras, historical landmarks that define our civic identity. They influence policy, subtly, through quiet funding of think tanks and publicly spirited board membership. In short, they're the engines behind long-term resilience in society. Now, here's a personal curiosity driver. Picture your own life. Not flashy, but steady, rooted. Maybe you don't have billions, but could you apply one old money principle? Think in generations, not quarters. How might that change how you invest, give, or just live? Okay, time for the big reveal. So, who is this family? It's the Astor family, one of New York's most storied old money dynasties. John Jacob Astor built his fortune in the fur trade in the late 1700s. Today, the Astors remain quietly influential through real estate holdings, foundations like the Astor Foundation, philanthropy in the arts and education, and stewardship over iconic New York institutions. Many may pass by a street named Astor or visit a museum wing funded by them without realizing the enduring legacy. That is the power of old money discretion. A family that started with fur, pivoted through real estate, and now lives in the invisible infrastructure of New York. Their impact ripples through generations, education, arts, civic life, without once needing a viral tweet. It's a story of resilience, adaptability, and most of all, purposeful legacy. The origins of the Astor Empire. The story of the Astors begins with John Jacob Astor, a German immigrant who arrived in New York in the late 1700s with little more than ambition in his pocket. He started small, selling musical instruments and fur, but quickly realized the vast profit in the fur trade. Partnering with Native American trappers and trading posts, he built a fur trading empire that dominated the industry. But here's where Astor showed his genius. While many businessmen of his era blew fortunes on luxuries, Astor invested in Manhattan real estate. At a time when New York was still a patchwork of farmland and cobblestone, he foresaw its explosive growth. By the time of his death in 1848, Astor was America's first multimillionaire, worth an estimated $20 million. That's over $150 billion in today's money. His famous quote, "Buy land. They're not making it anymore." That foresight turned the Astors into the landlords of New York, owning swaths of Fifth Avenue, Broadway, and beyond. The decline of the Astor fortune. No dynasty lasts forever. By the 20th century, the Astors' fortune began to wane. The rise of income taxes, wars, and the Great Depression ate away at old estates. Family splits and extravagant lifestyles led to massive sell-offs of real estate. By the late 20th century, their wealth was overshadowed by new billionaires in tech, finance, and global markets. Yet, here's the fascinating truth. While the money shrank, the name endured. Being an Astor in New York still meant prestige, power, and access, proof that reputation, not just riches, can span centuries. True wealth doesn't need to scream from the rooftops. The most powerful stories are the quiet ones, woven into the fabric of cities, generations, and culture. The Astors, and families like them, remind us that legacy is built not on flash, but on generations of thoughtful choices, adaptability, and silent influence. If you found this exploration as fascinating as I did, hit that subscribe button, smash like, and share with someone curious about the unglamorous roots of real power. Because sometimes the stories that whisper are the ones that echo the longest.